Economic crisis. What is the meaning of economic crisis? In any complex system, a crisis is a period of where the system functions very poorly, warranting immediate corrective action. Causes of an economic crisis. Since most economic crises are unexpected, it is usually difficult to determine the exact cause of the crisis. However, there are a number of situations that provide the setting for an economic. It is important to note that the presence of these conditions does not automatically lead to an economic crisis. An economy is a very complex system, and for such a system to dysfunction, the conditions have to be persistent over a long period of time. Here are some of the causes of an economic crisis. 1. Uncertainty. 2. Fraud. 3. Related markets. 4. Mismatch between assets and liabilities.
You are about to learn one of the biggest events that may happen at any time. It's an event that has huge effects for everyone lives in this planet. Most people can feel deep down that something isn't quite right with the world's economy, but few know what it is. Gone the day when the family can survive on only just one paycheck. Every day it seems that things are more and more out of control. Yet, only 1 in a million understands why. What is this event? This event is the US debt default. What do we mean by the US debt default? It means that the US wouldn't be able to pay its debts, or they would stop paying the money that it owed to US Treasury bondholders. Do you know the US debt to GDP ratio? It's 110%, above $17 trillion. Since 1960, the US debt ceiling has been raised 79 times. The US debt to GDP ratio in 2007 was 64%, while in 2013 it's about 110%. The US is heading towards higher debt levels, and it is continually raising its debt ceiling. Has the US defaulted before? Not really. There are 3 examples in the US history that come close to default. In 1933 and in 1790, they both involved defaults when creditors were forced to take less money than what they were owed. And the most recent one was in 1979. It was for a word processing error.
I know many Americans have questions tonight. How did we reach this point in our economy? And what does this mean for your financial future? These are good questions, and they deserve clear answers.
Is a default is the first time in 237 years, the history of this country, that the United States would not pay its bills. What that means is the government does not stand behind its word, and the confidence in our financial system would be severely eroded. This would be catastrophic.
The US has never experienced a real default. Imagine what has happened to the US when they were near the edge of default in the fourth quarter of 2013. Businesses unable to work in full capacity. Public sector contracts see delays on payment. Unemployment is already on the rise due to public shutdown. The most ironic shock about this shutdown is that's not saving money, but it's costing money. Sick Americans are out in the cold. For each week, hundreds of patients cannot be accepted for treatment in the National Institutes of Health, including cancer patients. 75% of staff is not working because of this shutdown, and patients in need of treatment are suffering. Veterans are outraged for closing public parks and war monuments due to this shutdown. Government has run out of cash to pay some 100,000 federal workers during the deadlock over the weekends. What would happen if the US defaulted? Global recession, global stock market crash, economic effects, rise in unemployment. Disinflationary pressures, US currency will lose its value, financial effects, higher premium rates on the US government debt, the US yield curve will steepen, worldwide rise, interest convergence, run on the banks, large negative effects on other economies, interest rates on personal loans will increase, higher mortgages rates and higher borrowing costs. The default might influence the political power of the US also. They wouldn't be able to continue financing their own military funds, and they would no longer be the world's largest economy.
The time when I took off, we did not come with all of my family together, but we were surprisingly attacked at night, and each and everyone had to take his own route. I'm one of the lost boys. We survived just narrowly until we walked some 100 kilometers, which took us 1 week. So this is the way how I survived, and it was terrible actually. It was terrible because there were jet fighters everywhere. Of course, once you see the jet fighters, you have to rush and hide in the bush. There are no secondary schools, there are no high schools, there are no colleges, a lot of things, which means this is like only bringing people in the same kind of level. So I just wish that if there will be change a little bit of education, that these children can be diverted in a very good environment. Our origin is our pride, and let them just restore Sudan to its former glory.
Battle pockets of rebels formerly allied to the SPLA, leaving civilians in desperate need.
The proximate cause of the problem, in addition to the fighting and the underlying political issues that have not been resolved related to the CPA, is that the government of Sudan has deliberately denied access to international NGOs.
Rice says 500,000 people are affected and face famine if help doesn't reach them by March. The Sudan government disagrees.
Certain individuals who are working on those agencies who do not abide by the cherished principle of impartiality. They serve some agendas of certain countries, they cooperate with the rebels, they transport arms through vehicles or aeroplanes of the United Nations to the rebels, and also some ammunition.
The UN has denied the accusation, while the US works on a draft statement to be distributed to Council on the matter. Sherwin Brycepees, SABC News, New York.